Do you know one of the biggest realizations that I've had in the last few years, as I've woken up, so to speak, is how politics is such a theatre, such a pantomime, and it is the greatest con trick of all performed on a society. It's an illusion to keep people distracted. I know a lot of you agree with this, but I'm talking about it because I think there's still a lot of cognitive dissonance at the moment on both sides. And when I say both sides, I never know how to describe the type of belief I have or movement that I think I'm in. I don't know, but anyone who's been authentically speaking their mind in the last couple of years, anybody who's resisted tyranny, anybody who's asked questions, and anybody who's done something to try to win back freedoms. What do we call ourselves? I don't know. But the cognitive dissonance, so there's that group, and then there's the other group who are slowly waking up or still fast asleep. The cognitive dissonance comes in. There's a lot of people, I used to see it in Telegram groups back in summer 2020, spring, summer 2020. I joined a lot of Telegram groups, and there was so much emphasis on things like ideas like, oh, Trump has got a plan. Trump's coming along to save the day. Or QAnon have got this all sorted. You know, the white hats are working behind the scenes. Basically there's a saviour or saviours coming along to save the day. And I always thought that's absolute nonsense. And I still do think, I mean, if there is someone coming along to save the day, well, you know, when's that happening? Because we're 2.5, 3 years into this now. So come on. I think what that does is it obviously gives people a sense of hope that there is someone out there who's going to expose all these lies and who's going to lead the way to a brighter future. But it also, in a way, it absolves people of the responsibility to really do all they can as an individual to do everything within their power to try to heal society according to how they see best fit. Now, the cognitive dissonance amongst another group, which is probably a larger group, comes in this way, because there's a lot of people, rightly so, who are very, very, at the very least, disenchanted, or if not that, very angry and furious with politicians at the moment for the part they have played in ruining society. But I think a lot of people, because they're not sufficiently open-minded and aware enough of the other, the wider story, the bigger picture. So they're blaming politicians for the state that the world is in at the moment. Well, they should be blaming themselves more, but I'll come to that in a minute. Whilst at the same time, still attached to these ideas that politics and politicians are the solution. Now, how about that for cognitive dissonance? So, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate and why I started speaking out via this YouTube channel, and why I wrote this book, The Imperfect Individual, and I'll come to the book again in a minute. Well, it says in the book why our world is in turmoil and how you can save it. Because what I want to do via this book is really inspire people and help them to realise that it is them as an individual and only them who can provide the solution, not politicians, not anybody else. I see this cognitive dissonance all the time. We've been fed this idea that politics is the be-all and end-all for so long now. We have general elections every few years where there's a huge build-up. You have political party conferences. You have the media constantly talking about politics all the time, talking absolute nonsense about things that really don't matter, whilst in reality, the things that are happening, the really, really tyrannical things that are happening, they're distracting people away from. And now, whether you look at, whether it's the BBC or GB News, whether it's the Daily Mail or the Guardian, whether it's Conservative or Labour or Lib Dem, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, whatever, when it comes to the really big talking points, events, social movements, and political and social and economic changes to society that are taking place and have taken place in the last couple of years, they're all on the same page. So whether that's the COVID and the lockdowns and the jabs, i.e. COVID was a killer disease, an existential threat, and lockdowns and jabs are the only way out of it. Whether it is social movements such as, the LGBT, Alphabet Brigade or Black Lives Matter, whether it is Trump, whether it is climate change, or now whether it's the Ukraine and Russia war, there's one narrative that is spun by the media, by 99% of politicians, in league with think tanks, NGOs, big pharma, big tech, with all the censorship and the propaganda. So whether it's left-wing or right-wing or centre, whatever it is, whether it's liberal or conservative, whatever it is, those big talking points, there is only one narrative. So it is all an illusion. And anything else that gets talked about isn't really that important. Because when it comes to the things that are actually shaping our world at the moment, there is only one agenda. There is only one accepted version of events, and there is only one truth, whether that's left, right, centre. It doesn't matter. So as I say, my mid-20s to mid-30s, I was I was fairly politically engaged. I wasn't what I'd call an activist. I wasn't going to party conferences, or I wasn't canvassing or anything like that. But I was interested in politics, and I really did believe that politics was that you had to have a certain type of politics, and for me it was I used to vote. I used to describe myself as centre right, whatever that even means. I don't even know now. And I spent a lot of time, invested a lot of energy. I used to love talking about politics, and whilst I also had a burgeoning interest in society, psychology, sociology, the human mind, consciousness, and all the rest of it, I really did put too much emphasis on the importance of politics in paving the way for a good, healthy, intelligent, morally centered society. And part of waking up is realizing that it is mostly all nonsense. I saw a quote the other day, and I can't remember who said it, but it was, I want to try and remember the exact word, and it was something like, man matures when he no longer blames his problems on politicians. It was something like that. I think it might have been that. And I thought, bang, that's it. That's absolutely bang on. That is nailed on, that. Absolutely, because it gives us an excuse to blame external sources, external individuals, organisations, blah, 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 rather than take responsibility ourselves. Now, this isn't to say that what's gone on, the evil that has taken place in the last few years, hasn't been engineered by politicians, by external sources, by World Economic Forum, United Nations, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, all the rest of it, in league with all the governments across the world. Of course, it has been engineered, it's been planned, and it's been executed with a fairly high degree of success. Not only the pure evil, but also the social re-engineering and economic re-engineering of society is taking place. But how's that taking place? Because here's the thing, it only takes a few overlords to oversee and organise and orchestrate a tyranny, but it takes millions and millions and millions of ordinary citizens to endorse it, to accept it and implement it. And that's what's happened. Now, so for those who say that, someone's coming along to save the day, whether it's Trump or in this country, it could be Nigel Farage or whatever, I don't care, QAnon, I don't care. Well, are we really that naive to believe that if the tyrants who are in power now are supplanted by other individuals or parties or whoever, that first of all, that's not going to entail a pretty horrific revolution for that to take place? But also, where's this blind faith coming from? That these individuals that people are really backing and getting behind and hanging every hope on, that they're going to be any better? Now, just for the record, I do believe that some politicians are much worse than others. And particularly in America right now, the Democrats, the Democrats, I'd much prefer Trump was in power, less bad. But I don't want to talk about politics because it is not the solution to our ills at the moment. And this is what I am passionate about, is that societies are built on the gifts of individuals. Freedom, liberty, it's not won at the ballot box. It's not won or lost at the ballot box. Freedom is our birthright. Freedom, basic human rights, can only ever be given away. And they have to be fought for every day. And they're not fought by political action. They're fought by individuals cultivating their own values, living imperfectly. Yeah, the imperfect individual. No one's perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. But at least try to take some responsibility and do what we can ourselves to affect our own little bit of our world. That's why I wrote this book. Because with all the commentary and the talking heads and the incessant information over the last couple of years, one thing that I really, really think that not enough people understand, only my own personal opinion, there's not enough talk about how totalitarian regimes, which is what we have now, we do live in a totalitarian country at the moment, you know, we've been subjected to horrific propaganda. People have been coerced and forced into undergoing medical procedures that they didn't want. The right to protest has been taken away. Freedom of movement has been taken away. All the rest of it. That's totalitarian. But totalitarian regimes, it takes two factors. It takes it takes a mentally ill but powerful small clique of people to orchestrate totalitarianism. But it also takes the rest of society to accept it. You know, to not challenge it, to say nothing, to keep their heads down, to not take that real responsibility in demolishing totalitarianism. And as I say, a lot of the commentary that and people who are very prominent in this, whatever our movement's called, it's always focusing on, 99% of the focus is on the overlords, is on the psychopathic bastards, and that is what they are, psychopathic bastards. Make no mistake, I don't know where it'd start, honestly. I don't know, I draw up a list though of, there'll be a couple hundred people on it, but don't get me started on that. Yes, but they will be completely powerless to do what they have done and continue to do without the ordinary men and women. As Primo Levi, he was an Italian Jew interned at Auschwitz, and I talk about his experience in this book. He said, monsters exist, but they're too few in number to be significant. The real monsters are the ordinary men and women ready to obey without question. And that's exactly it. And I still don't think that people can understand this in enough numbers, that it's we are the problem. This society is ours. We're products of it. We helped to create it. This problem is on us. And then the question is, who realises that? And then the next question is, who wants to be part of the solution? And who just wants to carry on having these stupid political arguments about Trump, you know, about how everything's the fault of Brexit, you know, how get the Tories out, get Labour, and oh, it's all a load of absolute, utter nonsense. Blame Putin, you know, climate change, the planet's burning, all the rest of these stupidly inane, simple solutions to very, very, very complex problems. You know, pick a hero and pick a bogeyman, and then the left will support this one, the right will support this one, and then we'll just leave them all to it. It's nonsense. You know, I talk, again, the book, if you want to buy it, click the link in the description, The Imperfect Individual, and you'll be able to get a copy there. I talk about how, and I do firmly believe in time that we will move to an age of, I call it connection and community and conversation as a natural antidote to, you know, to the insanity and the division and the polarisation now and the ignorance. And I also talk about how those tender green shoots of intellectual and moral rebirth are happening. But I also worry about what has to happen in the time between now and us to get there, which might be 10, 15, 25, might even be 50 years. Maybe it'll be sooner, it might be 5 years, I don't know. But this concept of encouraging people to somehow stop contracting out the problems to politics and politicians, disentangle yourselves from the idea that politics is ever going to be the solution to this. If it was, someone would have come to save the day by now, wouldn't they? But no, we can keep listening to following the threads on Telegram about how such and such has got this plan, and nothing ever comes off, does it? Let's be honest. You know, let's stop kidding ourselves. You know, and for those who are, as long as let's get Labour in, you know, Labour will fix it. They'll put more money into the NHS, and, you know, they're more socially just and all the rest of that nonsense. No, nothing will change, because they're all owned. You know, they're all following a script. They're all following a plan, you know, and it's easy to see. So how do we take their power away? We take their power away by stopping paying attention to them. I'm stopping voting, actually. I'll never vote again. It's pointless. But let's stop let's stop sculpting our own truths through our preconceived ideas of what is politically right, or through preconceived ideas that there's some, you know, some white hat saviours somewhere coming to save the day. So that's why I wrote this book, really, to try to inspire people to capture or recapture a sense of personal purpose, responsibility, ethos, by cultivating values, by living imperfectly, yes, but authentically, by trying to bring back those ideas to the fore in society, of, as I say, of debate, of conversation, of courage, of talking more in terms of ideas and philosophies and concepts, rather than things and people and events, because there's so much complexity that's behind all of this. It's so incredibly multi-layered, and we need to start talking more intelligently. We need to stop being so distracted. We need to focus our energies, because not a lot of people haven't got a lot of energy at the moment. Focus our energies wisely at the, you know, right now, and just switch off from the politics. So there we go. As I say, if what I'm saying there, if it interests you, you can order this book, The Imperfect Individual, my first book, just being released. If you click the link in the description, it'll be delivered within 5 to 10 working days. Right, let me know what you think about what I've just said there. You know, what do you think of politics? What is your opinion on what I've just said? Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.